photos and I saw it the other day. No, I've got to work.
The other new member of the group is not calling me. Caitlin. Caitlin Stafford. She didn't see her before. That makes the only close of it.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed.
Today's the 20th. Really? Conveniently, I can change that. It's really, is it really the 22nd?
If it's still on the Saturday.
It's a 15th.
Arbor Day?
Yeah.
No, the one
That's
we're going to
right.
host the event.
Oh.
Oh, okay. I swear I did that on the website. It says the link on the website.
Why are you changing Arbor Day?
Oh, it's last year. You haven't updated it for this year?
Oh, that's not right. There you go.
You're still gonna be late. Arbor Day, so I did that.
It's Arbor Day is the 15th.
That's last year's reschedule was when the winter, when the snow happened.
So it is gonna be on the 22nd?
I'm assuming, I don't know.
What is?
They're gonna text me.
Arbor Day.
You just sent out the newsletter saying it was the 15th. Just came
Oh,
today.
that's right.
Oh.
I just put it in my calendar today. I just got it.
Oh. Whoops.
See what happens when you don't update the website, Tori?
It's definitely not my, I don't even have access.
So you're saying it is the 22nd? Huh?
No, it's the 15th.
Okay.
I thought the website was correct.
Totally.
I wrote that article with Clint.
Well, wait a minute, and it's not Founders Park either. It's a new
No.
park, right?
Yeah, it's not.
So other than that,
That is totally right.
The Arbor Day part's correct.
And I think it's.
So we are gonna have Arbor Day.
No, I'm not kidding.
actually, what you said, since we're into this, this detail, yeah, right. But it said Arbor Day / new park dedication,
Yeah.
April 15th. And I don't think it was 10 to noon either. What, was it 10 to noon? I think it was 9 to noon.
What's the HHW, HTR?
Hard to,
Oh,
hazardous.
right, okay.
Yes, yeah. Hazardous, wait.
Household hazardous waste.
There we go.
Household hazardous waste.
That
okay,
much
cool.
I know.
And hard to recycle. Cool.
If we go back to the old school events, then I know those. So what is it called again? Arbor Day and then what?
Arbor Day, new park dedication.
New park dedication. Hi Caitlin, how are you?
April 15th, 9 to noon is what I had. It's what your newsletter says.
Apparently I pay attention when I work on a newsletter, but I don't when I work on this agenda. That's the reason I shouldn't do this.
Apparently I should be paying closer scrutiny to all these.
No, technically that one would really be me.
Okay.
Okay, not technically, it actually is.
So Tori, is that jacket for safety going back and forth across the street?
Yeah, I mean, we need it.
Yeah, I almost got plastered today walking over there.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. It's tough for
It's tough to see driving too.
Because it's a difficult turn if you're coming down,
Yeah.
because the cars just come out of Marshall Road and they just tear, or they come
Yeah.
out of the gas station.
Yeah.
And they're on you really fast. So you got to watch, and then you got to make sure there are no townies running
Yeah,
back and
townies.
forth. But that jacket, you should
Yeah.
issue those jackets.
I know.
Everybody
And
in
have a
the
safety vest for people to use when they come to town hall.
So everybody, well, not everybody, Caitlin's new.
Hi.
Caitlin Stafford was
Hi.
appointed on Monday night. If we get some more members here, wait.
You get to sit up there then.
On the special seats.
Yes. With appointment comes responsibilities, and one of them is sitting in the comfy chair. Most of them. And then the extension of the immunity contest. I mean, much longer than
Until they get a decent name.
Yeah, exactly.
When is my name finally gonna get on that final round? That's the name.
I mean, it should be Phyllis, right?
Oh, that's funny. So Caitlin, this is Tori.
Hi.
Tori's on staff. She does a lot of the programming and a lot of sustainability related items. And her role with the Park Trek Open Space department across the street. That's why she wears a neon jacket. Because our staff is spread across 5 different places. Our board has looked at across the street. I'm in this building most of the time. I'm not taking my life in my hands walking across the street. And then Ezzy Snell is the chair of the committee.
Hello.
He's been the chair for a couple of months, been on the committee for about a year and a half.
Yeah, I guess just over a year.
A little over a year.
Something like that.
Sneaks up on us. And then Jim Payne is here also. He has been part of the town committee for going on a decade.
Yeah, that's right.
In a while. And he's representative of the waste, from the HOA tonight. He's the president currently of the HOA, the Rock Creek HOA, and then the Rock Creek HOA has a waste diversion subcommittee. And he attends these meetings as a liaison from the HOA with the town's committee. And there are 6 other committee members who may or may not be. One female said she's not going to be here, Colleen Allen. And Lisa Skumans said she will be here, but she will be a little late. Seems a little bit hard. So we had an update last month. I don't know if there weren't any meeting notes, so we had kind of a brief update.
That was
session.
only like 2 or 3 of us.
It was just you last month.
Yeah, that's right. It was
Yeah.
just me.
You were lonely up there.
Inventing imaginary friends for me.
You got Caitlin.
No, exactly.
Caitlin's
I'm
here.
here now.
It does get a little tough sometimes in the summer. It's always around the holidays.
Yeah.
Committee attendance, this meeting attendance in general goes down. Tied up with school and kids and summer travel plans. But it's tough sometimes, especially when there's weather.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, it's
It's a few
snowing
more.
currently, so we'll see how much we get.
Yeah, more
I saw up to like 1 to 4 inches, I think. So before 9 o'clock today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so just enough to get everything nice and icy.
And it's like super wet snow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's starting to freak a little bit. It's like, they had to close ski resorts because it got too much snow.
I saw that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So
Really?
crazy. Oh, down here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they
I'm
didn't.
really happy about this.
That makes me ecstatic. Yeah, they got like 44 inches.
They said like they couldn't get their employees in and out, so they
Yeah.
were like, we can't
Yeah,
do
that's-
this.
Wow.
Yeah, 44 inches
That's
in a
crazy.
week. And that's a Keystone, which doesn't usually get hit as much as the other ones do. So I think Crescent Buttes did like 6 inches or something. And then they were saying that if it was Colorado, like normal snow, they would be able to handle it, but it's so wet. That
Makes sense.
they can't.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
We have 3.
It's a win.
How many do we officially need for quorum?
5.
We're more than halfway there.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've had quorum, what, twice since I've We've been short with people for a long time, so thank you for applying.
Yeah.
I don't think it works.
Excited.
It's not under disconnect.
Really?
Yes, if you're looking at them, right one plugged in no problem, the left one.
Nothing. Was there a vehicle there, or are you able to plug in?
Sneak back up
Yeah,
Press the left
I mean, I
hand
tried to
button.
plug it in,
Yeah.
but couldn't, so could, I doubt it's just me, cause I'm like, plug the machine in, but I couldn't get it to do anything.
Put the other side work.
Yeah.
So do you do the full interview
We're
with
working
the
on
podium and
I
the whole?
did. I did not know that was what I was getting into.
Yeah, I had that same experience. I was like, wow, this is like the
I
most
was like,
intimidating
I was-
experience ever.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're doing their work session. Maybe it'll be like inside room.
I feel like
and
they have like a
walk
table or
in
something,
and,
and
talk to
yeah,
them.
exactly.
And it was like a meeting where there were developers here, so that were like,
Oh, it's so
at the
packed.
house.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I was like,
It's time for them to get replaced.
hi,
So we applied for a grant.
Caitlin.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was gonna say anymore. So I
Wow,
was
this is
pleasantly
way more.
surprised
Yeah.
when, after a few months, they like gave up looking for other people.
We got awarded.
No, I guess their process is that they wait until everyone who's applied has interviewed before making decisions. So that's why it
Okay.
takes a long time. But
No problem.
Where is the one at then?
Yeah, it was not quite what I was expecting.
I
it to
know.
be, So.
You know where massage
I showed up. I was
therapy
like,
is?
wow, it's like
Yeah, I was like, I wish
really
I
a
could
big
one
deal.
of these meetings and realize that this is how it works.
Right.
I would have like prepared a
They should, I mean,
statement.
there's
Yeah.
one down here and around
So.
there, there's the one by.
But so do you live in like Old Town or?
I'm in Rock Creek.
Okay.
So
that's
how about you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a 30-minute one, like 80%,
Oh.
30 minutes.
Yeah, those are expensive. It would be nice to get those.
What kind of garden do you have?
Wow, that's awesome. Did you get it through the county's procurement thing?
So the 2017 work plan is something that we were supposed to go over last month, but since no one is here, we didn't.
Postponed.
Because, yeah, unless we have a quorum, we can't officially acknowledge that we've reviewed it, so.
Okay.
So it might get postponed a little bit longer too, depending on what happens tonight.
Alright.
But at least you can see kind of what types of stuff we do
Yeah.
over the course of the year. And
So what's the garden in a box? That sounds interesting.
yeah, it's a program where basically people pay a little bit of money and the rest is funded by the town. And they get basically just a whole bunch of plants. And so there's some that are like, I think there's like a pizza garden that has like tomatoes and herbs and all sorts of other stuff. There are a bunch of flower ones that attracts pollinators, all sorts of stuff. And then it's basically like, they show you how to lay it out. So if you have a raised box, it's designed to fit in a certain area. Otherwise you can just plant them wherever.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, so a lot of what we do is just kind of like ongoing stuff, like the dog waste program up at Dog Park. I'm not sure if you have a dog, but
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So if you notice that, that's our group.
Okay.
Dealing with waste and recycling, and there's been a lot of discussion about the new downtown. I guess it's no longer the town center, but yeah. So kind of all that stuff. And occasionally we do energy efficiency as well. So kind of a random mix of stuff, and then events like Arbor Day.
Okay.
So it's kind of a good mix.
I'm excited.
Did we get another person too? Let's see.
We do say like 7-ish years, 8-ish years, you might need to anticipate replacing the battery cell. But
They just elected me
yeah,
chair in
we
November
say
and
that.
neglected to tell me that was my job to
In
start the
this
meetings
project.
officially. So first meeting after that was sort of awkward.
We're like,
I was like,
when are we
so.
gonna get started, guys?
Yeah. I was like, anytime.
Yeah.
And everybody just kind of looked at me. I was like, oh,
I
wait,
think I'm
do I need
supposed
to
to
do
do
that?
Have a 5-year
Yeah.
warranty with
Yeah, now
the
they're
car.
longer. On the first generation, I was like, and that's why there were a lot of people that were arguing with the Prius, like, is it really worth it because of the amount of manufacturing that China puts into the batteries? It was actually worse than a low, like mileage car.
Right.
But now on the new Priuses, it's not. But when it first came out, people were like, don't do it. It's not worth it. So now it's nice that they have like all the different versions.
That is cool.
All the different options. Yeah.
So yeah, if
That's
you think
awesome.
about getting one, it's like, as far as I understand, everything is
Lisa's late. Lisa had a daughter.
This is dog sick, so she's out to vet, so as soon as she's done with that, she'll come over. Yeah, no one else? So Martin, what do you think? Should we go over some of the just general stuff at least? And
Yeah. So in order just to honor the time that you guys made to be here, I'd like to go ahead and get started. And Lisa Skumas can come by, and anybody else.
We need 2 more people. It could be a quorum for the 3rd time.
Let's cross our fingers.
Yeah.
Alright.
Is there actually a leadership election, or is that?
There is. So by the 2nd meeting of each calendar year, the ordinance that governs how advisory committees are run calls for a leadership election.
Okay.
But if there's not quorum, then it just gets pushed out.
That's right. Okay, so that's why
remember,
our leadership
we
election
ended up
happening in
being
November.
elected.
And then, yeah. Okay.
That's why Michelle is.
For like a year and a half before that.
That's really funny. I was like, didn't we just do that? But, yeah.
I mean, with 2 more people, it should be helpful. We should get back into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Better chances of.
Yeah, exactly.
Much
The
higher.
odds are better.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do need to have that. All committees and commissions do it, regardless of the duration. And sometimes it's to have the same person do it again. Sometimes it's not. That
Mhm.
if there is a role and responsibility, and it's required to recognize it, and give each committee an opportunity to have somebody do
Okay.
different, or recognize somebody who's only been doing it for a couple of months. Give them the chance to do it for actually a full year.
Maybe questionable job, and now people are already trying to have new leadership elections.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. The
I can, I comment.
Really? There's
Sure.
like a guideline? There are rules for what I'm supposed to do?
Obviously,
The
somebody must have
meeting's
given
in
that
order.
to me
That's
at some point,
awesome.
because I just found
So-
it on my phone there, like,
Are we recording?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Jim Payne, Superior resident, Rock Creek, HOA representative or liaison. Just wanted to make a comment about the wind and the wind, we implemented these wind-blown trash steps. So we did that last year, if you recall, and both the HOA through our media and the town through its media have been publicizing that wherever we can. And my logic was always, or my philosophy was always, at the very least, people who are interested in doing something about it, who do complain or have complaints or are concerned about it, at least they have something we can give them to take positive action. But I hadn't been seeing a lot of response. But the Christmas Day storm was Christmas Day, and no one was around, and we really didn't. It wasn't a trash day itself, so we really wasn't an issue with trash. We had everything else go wrong. But last Monday, as you know, was windy. Christmas Day got up to, I saw reports of up to 95 gusts based on Rocky Flats measurements, and Monday was 85 is what I saw. I don't know what you saw.
That's
But
not
anyway.
good.
So it was a Monday. So I got with Martin first thing Monday morning, and we both, the HOA and the town, sent out an e-blast saying, "Hey, windy day. These are the things you can do." And it was the first time I saw response. I saw on my street people going out and turning their bins sideways, and they all stayed up.
Wow.
Oh yeah, it
Oh,
was
great.
amazing. And I had 2 other people just, anecdotally that day that I was talking to comment that they'd seen it and that sort of thing. So I guess one thing I knew already is you just got to keep hitting at this stuff, and people eventually catch on. And then the next time it comes up, someone can say to their neighbor, "Oh, go to this, go here," and the town has these, and the HOA have these guidelines for you. The other thing is that it's top of mind when there is a wind event. So on wind collection days, unfortunately they're Mondays, so it's hard for us to do it like the night before. Not impossible, but it's difficult to coordinate everything. We can do it though, Martin. I mean, the HOA, generally I can get to them, but to the people who put it out. But the lesson learned is that when you get it out there early in the day on a wind day, you're going to get people are gonna see it and pay more attention to it because they're thinking, oh, what can I do, what can I do? But I saw people doing it. I was really surprised, not surprised, but I was really, gratified to see it. So, we'll see.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, Jim and I haven't coordinated that since we communicated about sending this, but the volume of calls that we typically receive wasn't as large. It follows along the logic that.
What do you mean volume of calls, people complaining?
Complaints.
that-
Complaining about trash, thinking that the town would go pick up trash,
Oh,
is the
right.
usual one I get.
Okay.
You mean you
I don't-
guys don't go pick up all the trash?
Come on, Martin. Put those gloves on, get to it.
I'd like to. There are always going to be some oddities.
The other thing, just on the trash, not win, but on the day after Christmas, the 26th, a lot of people were confused. So they thought that, and if you go on a Waste Connection site, they have a calendar and it says, oh, these are the days that we observe, and Christmas Day was one of them. So a lot of people assumed that since a lot of people were observing the holiday on the 26th, offices and so forth, they assumed, oh, well, there must not be any trash collection. If you went to the Waste Connection's actual calendar, it was clear that there was no change in the collection day, but a lot of people missed it. My street, no, they come by at 7:30, they're on my
I
street.
know, believe me, I had an issue with my husband, because I'm like, what made you think they weren't coming?
Nobody. I went out there, and I was the only one with my trash out there, and I said, whoa. So,
I was
but
told I could sleep in.
But I will say that a lot of people call Waste Connections, I don't know if they call the town, but they called Waste Connections, town, I guess was closed, you guys were closed anyway. And they did come back around. They came,
Oh, did they?
the afternoon, they came back around and did the whole
They
thing
were probably
again.
wondering why there were no bins out.
Oh, they knew. Well, what happens is when that happens, just if you ever experience, since no one has their trash out, they don't stop.
got that
So you don't
really
get the
quickly.
chance of hearing the truck and running out there, because he just whipped right through.
So I have a question / hope for you guys. I mean, I know that there's a lot going on, but you do have a management company, and I have no issue with the fact that you're just like, go see their page. But honestly, it's a year, and at the beginning of every year, the management company could easily just put on our website.
It's there, the link, everything's there.
But it's a
so-
link, and there's no reason why the management company can't just say, these are the only Mondays that trash won't be collected. Still
that-
keep the link there, because, does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Is that something we could
Like,
maybe
they don't have to do it
include
for
in
every
the
week, but
newsletter?
literally just, we could put it in a newsletter.
Just have like, this month,
Well, the
Tuesdays.
problem is it gets a little bit tricky because there is a slight difference in the collection. It gets confusing.
Oh, that's
Because they
right.
have
Okay,
every
I forgot
other,
about that.
on something. So that's why we try to refer to them. Actually, what we do for the recycling is we just print the actual day, for the composting. Because composting is.
Yeah,
every-
composting, you pick up the actual, you list the actual pickup
So
days.
the trouble
yeah.
is, it's not a simple way to do it, but as far as the holidays that affect the change of schedule,
Yeah,
that is a good idea.
yeah, just put a
there are
note
only,
like.
there are
hey,
only
for
5 of them or
Exactly,
something.
just say for 2017, there are no days that are
Right.
gonna be a holiday, or just these 2
Yeah,
dates.
That's a good idea, because we do
Just-
have all the trash stuff
Yeah.
together, so we could just put it in there.
Because it's funny, because it gets slightly confusing when you go to
It is
Waste Connections site, because they have their calendar set up for an every other week recycling thing, but
Well,
our recycling gets picked up, so if you're
The
new to
second
the
time-
neighborhood, people can
The
get a bit
second time I
weird.
went back to the site, I noticed, the day before, Christmas Day, next day was Monday, went to the site. I found the calendar, which is what I always go to, and it was clear. But the second time I went back to the site, I realized that they had a running banner across the top that said there's no chance. They did have that at the top. So their intentions were good.
Yeah. No,
But-
it's just easy thing.
Yeah. That's a good
Since
idea.
it's for
We
the
can do that.
HOA. Yeah, it's not like, it's tons, like you said, it's just.
Well, actually, what we're now gonna do is try to just send out an e-blast just when the days change too, so.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah, everybody does all they can.
it's a good idea.
It matters.
Yeah, that's a good
Thanks.
suggestion. Thanks for that. We'll have some items on the work plan later, but yeah, trying to keep that level of communication between the town and the HOA seems to really pay dividends. It's taken a couple of years, but it's showing some results.
So as I'll go through the updates and new business real quick, and then we can get to the work plan, which is really the item that would be great to try and get through tonight. Even though there's just the 3 members of the group here, you know, the group's had a chance over the last couple of months to see and forward any suggestions that
Great.
they'd like to see in the work plan. And then I think we had the same situation last year where, without a quorum, you know, still everybody in the committee's had several months to consider any changes they'd like to suggest, so we can try and wrap it up tonight so that it can
Okay.
be considered by the board at the next meeting, but that's just my suggestion.
That sounds great to me.
All right, so garden in a box. We talked a little bit about this last month. As you got to hear from Tori a little bit about this. So Tori's got a couple of updates.
Just me.
And then a
Really funny.
PowerPoint presentation, the same one from last month, right? So maybe I'll just touch quickly on the, if you don't mind, Tori. I'll just switch the order around. I didn't really think about this when I copied, well, I got December's agenda and I just wrote January across the top. So the Christmas tree program, last Saturday, the Cub Scout troops, 278 or 575, the Louisville troop and the Superior troop coordinate doing a door-to-door Christmas pickup, and it went really well. We had a high volume of trees. If you've ever been over at the yard waste site on the Saturday that the scouts pick up the trees, it's quite an operation to see. It's a huge volume of trees. So that was last Saturday. So just an update. Number one, that it happened and went well, and then we'll have some totals on what the amount was for next month after we get the invoice from the hauler. The newsletter items, we've no new ones, several items that we've seen in the past. The reminder about Call and Ride, the Christmas tree pickup was on there, the yard waste site hours, the Energy Smart tip, bulk item reminder, and then the Windy Day trash item was actually in there as well. I think Jim and I touched on, and then also the Do Good reminder about picking up after dog waste, and also the bus service, the 228 local service. So several items that we've had over the last few months ran again in this month's newsletter. If you've had a chance to look at it, then you're familiar with it. If you haven't, go home and look at it. There's lots of good information. Tori let me know, Patrick let me know that you're working on some maybe enhanced information about pet waste pickup rather than passing through the KICP Do Good information that we've had through the Keep It Clean partnership with the other communities in Boulder County. We're going to try and maybe ramp up our efforts to get the word out about picking up pet waste. It's been a thing here for a long time, so trying to ramp up the education and advocacy to try and reduce and minimize it, and then especially with the new park. You know, with the new park opening up near the El Dorado K8 on Torrey's Peak is an opportunity to help people not get in the habit of going there and letting their dog use the park as a bathroom and not picking up after themselves. So that's something the Toys Department's going to work on over the next couple of months. So look for in addition to the usual items that we have in the newsletter, that'll be a ramped up some information there. And then calendar. So hard to I did it. Household hazardous waste, hard to recycle, the event that the town's participated in now for a better part of a dozen years. Everybody's seen that, as you saw it last year. Caitlin, it's new for you. Michelle and I have been talking about this for years. The folks from EcoCycle and the folks from Boulder County and our staff and this committee work together to host this event on a Saturday, usually in the spring. And because the town doesn't have a facility of a large enough size to actually have a volume of dozens of cars come through and separate out materials, we host it at the El Dorado K8 parking lot. It's really the only place in town where we could host that that we're allowed to. And it has to happen on a day when a Friday and a Monday the school is closed. So a lot of people travel on that weekend and they're not in town.
You don't go to school those days? Oh, crap.
Sorry.
Surprise.
I know, I was working on my school calendar today,
I was just getting excited because I
too.
didn't have any days off in my calendar. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, surprise. Boulder Valley School District's going to sneak up on us again. I'm trying to stay ahead of it a little bit this year, but I don't know that I'm doing so well. Sure, John?
These are now going to be contiguous to each other, right next to each other at the same time.
Mhm.
So any angles to that?
Yeah, hopefully it gets some amplified participation in both. It's
Any
symbiotic
way to
in a way.
Combine them in the messaging so that it's,
Coming to one, go to the other? Hmm?
yeah.
Yeah, so it's fortuitous in a sense, and it's unfortunate that we can't have it someplace else on a day that isn't a 4-day weekend for that school. And it just
Mhm.
happens. So April 15th, busy day.
Maybe, maybe another day. Maybe we can use the new parks drive around next year. Just a thought.
Yeah,
We can make a good little loop.
it would be tough. Then we'd take away the parking for the park.
Oh, believe me, the people that are parking there aren't there for the park.
Aren't there for the park? You know, the parking loop? I guess we'd have to find a way to get the Gaylords for all the different material. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just a
I hadn't really
thought,
about
just
it.
thought I'd throw that out there, because it's only for, it's a short period of time. You can close down that parking lot for a day and nobody would be bothered.
Mhm, especially on
Actually, also,
Saturday, if it's not
If the
school.
Yardways site is expanded a lot, as you've talked about, would that potentially be a site for one day? You might have to move some stuff around,
That's a
but
good
maybe that
question.
could work.
Yeah, potentially. It's definitely an idea. We could look at that. I was backing up, having the dog park parking lot be overwhelmed potentially by
That's true.
folks
That would
dropping
be
off would be tough.
less than ideal.
You
Yeah.
know, Lisa's nodding her head because she remembers when we had it at the North Pool facility. We
Mhm.
had some suboptimal interactions with folks who were there to use the tennis courts.
The only year
Politely.
they didn't seem to be bothered was the year it was snowing and raining, go figure.
Yeah, so it comes back to the question we always have each year, which is finding a suitable facility that's easy to access,
Mhm.
convenient day and time, and is also in town.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea of having it at the Yardway site would make sense if we could make sure that we had enough room.
As
so
long as
people
there's
could-
enough parking.
That, if there are, and I guess realistically, we've had, in my mind, maybe 20 or so cars, 25, maybe no more than 30 at one time.
Yeah, there was that one year when we came in, it was really backed up, like past the hump on Indiana
Mhm.
for there, but it goes really quick, because it's.
It does go quick since we
It's
split
just
it.
an in, yeah.
Yeah, we'll give the logistics some thought. That's a good
Just worried about
suggestion.
the advertising, visibility thing, the Yardway site's not nearly as visible as.
That's true.
Yeah, like you don't just
Or
drive
about
by and
a-
suddenly see them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. There are a number of people, since we've been having it at El Dorado Cave the last couple of years, will drive out on Indiana, see the signs, and go to wherever they're going to go, and then come back, grab their TV, grab their mat, whatever it is that they're going to drop off. It's funny how that.
It used to be really visible when people got
Mhm.
it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a really good
And
point.
the North Pool is great for that as well. Good suggestion. All right, we'll keep working on the logistics. That's why it's good that I reminded myself when this was, because I had it on the wrong date for Arbor Day. So Arbor Day the same day, it's essentially the same location. So a couple of update items. So the Christmas tree program, newsletter items, and then just some look-ahead items for your calendar. We are hoping to be able to work with Guardian Storage to host the Shred and E-Cycle event, and we're still coordinating in the logistics. That's why it's not listed there, because I just don't have a firm commitment yet from them. And with that, the Garden in a Box and Yard Waste is Tori.
So the garden in a boxes, we have 50 available for town residents with the $25 discount. And they go on sale March 1st, but before March 1st, customers can add their name to a pre-sale list between now and March. So we'll have all the information going out through e-blasts. The Center for Resource Conservation has all the marketing for us, and they make it really easy. So residents will go through them, and then at a closer date, we'll be organizing a pickup that's in between us and Louisville for residents. So that'll be coming soon with specific dates. But
So Tori, with the discount, how much are they then?
so there is. Well, so I have the list of all of the.
Other, not like just a set price?
Yeah, so it's there's a $150 one, $144, $129, and a $104 with a $25 discount.
That's cool.
Applied to those, yeah. And then there's two that are $74 that a discount cannot be applied to, but they're $74 and they're I like it. It's the spaghetti dinner, so it's a veggie box,
fun.
and then there's the greatest hits of Xeriscape is the other one. So they're just a little smaller and
That's really
more
cool.
affordable. So, yeah, so we'll have 50, and the pre-sale list. I'm assuming will fill up very fast. So we might sell out before March 1st, which is a good sign, so.
And then the logistics of actually getting them?
So the CRC will organize a location with us and the town of Louisville, and then or the city of Louisville, and then residents will go there to pick them up.
So maybe a centralized location that
Mhm.
might be here, might be like in the Lowe's parking lot. or
Yeah,
something like that.
I'm assuming probably Lowe's or Home Depot parking lot is what they'll choose, so.
When is this?
The
March?
the gardens go on sale on March 1st, and then the date to pick up will be announced later. It goes through their nursery, and whenever the nursery says that they're ready.
So that was a program that this group looked at last year as a recommendation for this year's budget, was budgeted to be included and approved to be part of the work plan. So it'll be good to follow through. Yeah, it's great to see this.
No, it would be. I was really happy to see that on the agenda because the problem has been that we got to it too late to be able to reserve any boxes. So this is the timing that we need.
Yes, that was really more my failing than anything, so.
That
go
is
for
not
yours.
your
They
fault.
also
Come
they
on,
also get
Martin, give
moving
yourself some
very
credit.
early. We had to let them know in June, so they get.
Yeah, you have to let
They're
them know
on
the year,
it.
the year before.
Yeah.
So if we sell out this year early,
Mhm.
then next year we could reserve more boxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure Garden in a Box sells out just in general every
Yeah.
year. It's just a question of how long it takes before it sells out.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty much.
How do you do that otherwise? I mean, is it something can you go into a store and buy something like that, or how would you replicate that if you wanted to?
I'm not sure. The way that they have it set up is they have landscapers pick like the layout for the garden, and I mean, you don't have to follow it, but they give people like a plan with the different types of plants that come in each box and all that. So I've never heard of another program, but I'm sure you could replicate it. They just have a lot of hands on deck to pull that off with
So they
their
come up with
nursery.
kind of templates each year?
Yeah, so they have, so like, there's, so they have pollinators paradise, so they have people pick specific flowers or plants that would do well for that specific thing, and then they have like a layout, there's a little map of like which plants you put where for it to look its best. And so they have just different ones based off of what you want to do. Honeybee Haven, Sunset Gardens. Then when you look on their website, they kind of show you what it should look like based off of their maps. So you could replicate it, just be
Just curious.
difficult.
So it's great to participate in this program.
Mhm.
It'd be great to have an ad. I just wanted to recognize the two people who showed up just a minute or so after we started. Sharon Procopio is here, consultant for the town, who helps support with some of the sustainability projects, and then also Lisa Skumats, just for the recording. Thanks. All you.
So last month we kind of went over the yard waste site expansion that the town is looking at for this year. We'll be looking at through February through April. So this is the current site. It is, I got these numbers finally, 3,465 square feet. And there's a gate right here. So residents and the contractor come through here, drop, and then back out. So cars can get stacked waiting for people to pull in, pull out. And then when the contractor comes, the site basically closes down because they have to take the bin, and then the other one is usually full, so it remains closed until the contractor comes back with the empty one. So it's a nice site to have. There's a compost pickup right here as well. So we have possibilities to make it significantly easier for residents as well as the contractor. So with the expansion, there's actually only 4 roll-offs. So there will be 3 30-yard roll-offs and then a 20-yard roll-off, so it's a little bit shorter, easier for people to drop their stuff off. And then there will be a roll-off for the compost so that the compost isn't blowing away. It's a lot easier to get the side doors basically open so residents can just go in and take what they need. With the expansion, we will need to remove this tree to get a wider gate, just to help our contractor out, as well as help residents getting in and out. So we'll get the new gate. We're gonna have the fence here, so we're gonna expand to 18,480 square feet. So a total net increase of 15,000 square feet. So residents can come through, pull in between the bins and access the bins, and then exit this way. So it will be a lot easier for quick drop off, also for the contractor to come and take a bin, and there'd still be other options for people to drop it off at. And then, so you would be able to handle 5 residents at a time, with 4 dropping off and 1 at the compost, so it would increase significantly. So the goals are to accommodate the composting needs, create a user-friendly layout which allows 6 patrons, that's 5, sorry, to use the site at once, 4 dropping off organic materials and 1 picking up compost, increase traffic efficiency and safety enhancements with the drive-through, and then also a safety increasement that I didn't mention before is that we're putting in concrete pads where the roll-offs are. So right now it's on asphalt, so it gets a little tricky for the contractor when he's picking them up and taking them out. So residents also can't use it because of that. So with the concrete, it makes it easier when he's picking up and putting it down, so it's not sliding. So it does increase safety significantly for residents who would still be in the site while he's removing or dropping them off. And then we'd increase the material drop-off capacity by 83%. And then it would be 110 cubic yards increase that we'd be taking on. So we applied to the Boulder County grant in December that would help us pay for the changes that I just explained. So it's $15,000. And then we have another grant that will help us pay for additional things like a kiosk for the attendant, who will then be able to help residents that are accessing the site, help the contractor with anything he needs, and then their supervision will help us decrease the amount of contaminated loads. So by giving them a kiosk, we're making it a little bit easier for them to do their job. They're not out in the elements when it's chilly or hot. So we do have the 2 grants, which would give us $25,000 in grants for this project. So yeah, this is just a brief explanation of the site attendant, and the chain link fence that is currently around the site will be moved, so we won't be needing new materials, at least a significant amount. We'll need like 14 feet to make up the difference, but we'll be recycling materials. We'll be recycling materials to make it a little bit more eco-friendly. So that's the proposed changes, and they'd start around February. So we're waiting to hear back on the first grant, and then we'll be applying to the second grant this week, and we won't hear back on that one until like March.
Who services the site and where do they bring it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Who services the site and where do they bring the materials? I don't remember that.
Oh,
Western Waste Management?
no,
Waste Connections?
salvage, so the Kuffners.
Superior Maintenance is the current vendor, and they have a chipper at their yard here in town.
And where do they bring, like, the stuff that needs composting, not just chipping?
Everything that they take, they either run through their chipper or they take to I think it's A1, I can't remember the site that they take it to for the composting part of the process. And that's where we end up having it come back from as part of the full circle.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks for doing this. It's gonna be awesome. So.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see the expansion, and we met with the facility attendant a couple weeks ago, and he's very excited about doing different things with the site. So he wants to have some flyers for residents to give them information about being more environmentally friendly, and he's very passionate about the site and very excited. So that makes us even more excited to know that we'll have somebody down there that cares about it, and hopefully we can decrease the contamination and
I think it's
drastically
great.
increase our capacity. So I
And
think
it's so much,
Fantastic.
so much more cost effective than a curbside program if we can get people to use it,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
So some great changes this year, and it's great that
Looks
Tori
like
was
it.
able to spearhead this over the last couple of months with some of the other park staff to try and get this to come to fruition. It'll be a great project. It was great.
Really good.
Fortuitous that the county was able to help us leverage,
Really good.
the capital fund that we just didn't have. So being able to take and do a lot more than what we had originally budgeted for is a great change. So we're looking forward to that over the next couple of months. It'll be some great changes. We've talked about this for really since the Yardway site opened, when it would be expanded or changed or refined, and it's great. It's one of those projects that we've talked about for many years, and to actually see it happen, I want to stop and just pause for a second and say, we actually did this after talking about it for so long. You know?
And people who use it seem to really like it.
Mhm.
Yeah, there are a lot of very regular users.
I've got a tree to take there.
After that windstorm, I'm not sure.
No, it's actually my Christmas tree.
Sure.
We lost 3 fences on that one.
Nice position.
Hello, Sharon Procopio, consultant. So you guys were talking about kind of drumming up additional interest in the Yardway site. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are looking for ideas for getting more people to go there. Do you have anything, once the site's redone, in terms of thinking about promotion? Because I have a couple ideas, example ideas, from other projects that I've worked on where they were trying to get people to come to a site to do something like recycling or composting. If you give people for first-time visits coupons to local businesses, like some kind of if you can find a partner business or 2 or 3. So, come to the Yardway site, if it's your first visit, you get $5 off your whatever it may be. Can be a way to
Burrito.
kind of do what we call that initial, like you said, once they go, they like it. So if you're looking
Yeah.
for a draw, sometimes just getting them in the door with that come get a free thing can incentivize people to come by. That's the freebie way. It's not always the most effective way. The other way is, do they pay a fee when they come? No, it's all free. I was going to say the other way that you could do it is to have some kind of prearranged event or town activity that's based out of there to just draw people that are making a commitment to something else, but to bring them to the benefit of that space. So if you're trying to get them to that space. I was just with a group of people talking about doing this with, trying to get people to do energy efficiency work and getting them into a space that's energy efficient to see it by hosting events and hosting other kind of social events. To put
And
that
since
in
we're on a
space.
roll, and we could be talking about, social marketing things as well, and things like competitions between neighborhoods and stuff like that. Oh, what street are you on? And try to
Sure.
get the most
Absolutely.
homes bring stuff, that sort of stuff.
So it's
That's
because it's a
easy to-
super exciting
we do that a
plan, and I
lot.
think once you guys have it constructed and able to be used, like having a plan for getting people there once it's built, that you're working with in tandem, so that when that's done, you already have all those things kind of lined up and ready to go. We'll make sure that you get the traffic that you want to
I
see.
bet we can rope in some of Tori's other little kidlets that she guides.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be a fun thing for like the youth leadership maybe to help with.
Yeah.
And then if we do an event and it involves young kids, you'll get the people there.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, it sounds like the facility will be finished around the time that Arbor Day event is. So, like, making sure we publicize it there, have like
Yeah.
a special booth or something.
Plants or trash a tree.
Bring your tree, bring
Yeah.
your old trees, and
Sorry.
we'll give you new trees, and then have it based at the Yardway site for exchange. I mean, it's not a bad
That's
idea,
true.
actually, if you were going to be giving out seedlings with another organization.
Yeah,
That's true.
Arbor Day Foundation does they still give us seedlings?
Um,
For many years, that's what we
last
did.
year-
Yeah.
But it's not every year.
Last year they didn't come because he got booked last
Oh.
minute, but before that we did.
Yeah, well, there might be opportunities. It's just
Yeah.
something to think about, because it sounds like timing-wise, it's going to happen quick, and then you don't want to have it ready and not have these things in place. So just throwing it out there to start brainstorming the ideas.
Well, we
might
could
be-
also highlight, if we're gonna have compost available at that point, we could also highlight that, if you wanna go plant a tree or something.
Come
at
get
the
some
Arbor Day,
compost.
Celebration, then go check out the new Yardway site,
Yep.
so.
Well, even like the new
Yeah.
Starbucks location might be willing to participate, because they do
Mhm.
compost out of their
Yeah.
grounds. And so
Oh,
there
that's
might
cool.
be a way to like tie in like a free.
Recycle their boxes.
Yeah, there you take what you can get from Starbucks. But yeah, I mean, I think there might be some opportunities there. So just throwing out ideas for the sake of ideas' sake,
Mhm.
that's my job. So.
Thank you.
Thanks. A couple of things that I didn't have on this now that I actually look at the agenda more closely. Thinking ahead to some stuff later in the year, just wrap up a couple of just update items. The joint town board and committee dinners are being scheduled over the next 3 or 4 months.
Oh, cool.
We have one scheduled later this month, but for the next couple of months, we don't have one yet. So as soon as there's a date for the joint dinner with RCAC and the town board, I'll send you all a note. It'll probably be right around the time of the meeting, so I'll remind you then. But as soon as I have it, I'll send you a calendar item. Grant update, talked about the giveaway item. So last year we had the bags, the canvas bags to hand out at the event. We talked about having that again as a budget item for this year. We took a couple of months last year to isolate down on something that made sense as a giveaway item. We could do the same one as we did last year perhaps, or if you wanted to think about an idea for something else, maybe bring it next month, and I'll have that as an item to touch base with you guys on. If there's been an item that you saw over the last couple of months or over the holidays that might be a better kind of swag item to give away at events with the town logo on it. But it seemed like the canvas bags had a really good reception.
Those were really cool, so.
It worked out well.
The best one I've seen for conferences that I've gone to, would be too expensive, but it was really great. It was about the size, a little smaller than one of these, and it was all solar panels, and it charged your cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
That's
That was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, those are great. That might be a good giveaway, like raffle item, or
Yeah, that's what
maybe
it is.
a thing.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Or the promotion for the yard waste stuff.
Yeah, like bring,
That's true.
load and give like a raffle ticket.
Mhm. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll have to really think about that. I like that idea.
It's
good to have
that
solar charge thing just there for people to plug their phone into for fun while they're waiting to.
That's true.
Get compost and get charged. Get charged. by compost.
Don't get charged, it's free.
There could be a way to get people to hang out at the RCAC event or RCAC tent during events.
Is to have a charging
'cause
station.
Yeah.
We have 2 or 3,
Cool.
so we could.
Do we
use
really?
those. We have, yeah,
Charging,
'cause
portable
with
charging
town
stations.
staff, we're there all day, so we just have the little phone ones, so that, cause our phones die by noon, and then we still have the rest of the event to go, so we have a
Right.
few, and they were relatively cheap, so maybe that'd be a way to get people, like, come
That'd
charge
be
your
cool.
phone at Chili Fest at the RCAC tent. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
It is. Very clever.
Then they're stuck there having to talk to you for
And we tell them all
Yeah.
about yard
Or they
waste.
can donate to a favorite cause, and we'll keep an eye on their phone for them.
Almost like a code check or a phone check service.
Yeah.
That's funny. So those were the new business and update items. So if there wasn't anything else, I didn't have anything else on my list. So work plan. The work plan that the group had talked about in October and November, we didn't have a meeting in December, so we just quickly went over this. So there were a couple of changes that I tried to capture.
As he pretended to be there.
I tried to capture during the November meeting, and then I emailed this with the agenda. So if you all had a chance to look at this, there was one item here that, as you mentioned last month, Excel Energy's, it's the PI acronym, Partner in Energy.
Mhm.
As you let me know that you mentioned last month for our update session,
Yeah.
that one of the staff members from Excel or one of their consultant staff was interested in making a presentation to the town about participating in the program.
Mhm.
I was looking at the agenda earlier, or the work plan earlier, and thought if you wanted to make a suggestion for the group to consider, I started typing a work plan item here, just as a potential add for you to consider. Excel's Partner in Energy program, maybe have them come make a presentation to the committee.
Mhm.
And then if it was something that you wanted to advocate as a little bit like Garden in a Box or the PACE program in the past, it seems like when we've presented to the board, they've wanted to get a recommendation after the group has had a chance to maybe flesh it out or vet it a little bit,
Mhm.
and then make a recommendation to include in the work plan. So it might make sense to include it as a second quarter item. So that's the only change from what you saw
Okay.
in the last time I saw
Yeah,
it.
that sounds great, thanks.
So the items added, we talked about the items that have been on there. There was a change to move the yard waste facility opening up as an ongoing item. The first quarter items, no change. I added the partner and energy item if you're interested in trying to schedule something
On
for the next couple
number
of months.
8 for research the garden in a box program, since we have done that, should that move up to ongoing as just like a yearly review?
Or at least not be reserved for other participants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe continue or promote,
Yeah.
because it's going to be, well, it'll be a budget item, but
Yeah.
maybe just host or continue or confirm. Just coordinate participation in the research or the garden in a box. And consider that an ongoing item.
It's seasonal, it's only one time a year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everything else, no.
Yeah, so it's listed as a first quarter item, because that's
Okay.
really what's kind of in the.
Yeah, but
February,
funny
March,
enough, it
April
sort of
timeframe.
actually has to be started in second quarter and then.
Of the previous year.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it
maybe-
works out perfect for me
yeah.
for budget, because it's in
So
June
maybe
and
if
we
we
have to
move
submit
it
budget.
to second quarter as like review and like
And do
determine
it.
if we're,
Sign up for or
yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So
That's a good
one
point.
is promote, one is sign up. Okay.
Sure. Anything else on first quarter?
I don't believe so.
All right. Second quarter. Gets a little busier. That's when the events traditionally are.
What's happening with PACE, if anything? Is it still just ongoing and we should figure out ways of kind of promoting it and getting the word out, or is something else happening with it?
The PACE program still happens through the county's sustainability office. Leah's been here, and there's a PACE coordinator, a staff member who's associated with doing the outreach, and did some great outreach over last
Okay.
year. Didn't get a lot of participation for all the reasons we've talked about in the past. These are rented spaces,
Mhm.
and the landlords haven't been is interested in them. But yeah, it's an ongoing program.
Are
and-
there more opportunities to maybe to promote that with the downtown / town center with the new buildings going in? I think most of those are still rented spaces, right? Or is that the case?
It's going to be a mixture. It depends on what actually gets built on Main Street. It could be
Right.
maybe some larger landlord, kind of building a block, or it might be some individuals, but it's a little early.
Okay.
That might be an item to consider maybe for next year.
Okay,
when there's
sounds
maybe
good.
Something closer to construction there.
Can I ask a really off base, it's actually, I have a plan here, okay, so, how many commercial spots are there in the, center versus residential? How many
Oh, it was
commercial
in the
spots
newsletter
there?
the other day.
In terms of square footage,
Or, no, more in terms of entities, I guess.
well, it's a little early to tell. It could be smaller entities, or it could be,
'Cause they did
there's
just do
going to
by
be
square
office
footage.
along the chasm, there's going to be some retail over residential, there's going
Also
to be
flex
some Main
space.
Street.
Right.
There is
So-
some flex space.
So that's kind of
um,
nebulous until someone
So it'll be
occupies
a
it.
mixture, and there's some parameters in the PD plan for that says up to, 1,400 residents, up to several hundred thousand, I
And
want to say
there'll be
500,000.
different landlords and all that jazz for various people.
Potentially, or it could be single owner, it could be owner occupied for some of those
Yeah,
spaces.
but the medical will be different from this, something will be different from
Mhm.
the.
The medical office building is gonna have
restaurant
one
will be
owner.
different from what- The reason I'm asking is because sometimes, towns establish like a downtown business, not improvement district, but district of some sort.
An association,
And they
yeah.
jointly contract for trash service there, so that there is, a good contract where they get all the spaces in an area, and so they can get lower prices, and so that they can also require things like recycling and that sort of thing.
Oh, that's a good
It's not
idea.
done tons of places, but it is done in sort of more innovative places, and it can be real savings. And if we establish that or require that or
That's actually
encourage
really
that
interesting.
or got behind
Mhm.
that, something like that, it could really help make sure that maximum recycling really does take
Mhm.
place there, and at minimum cost, because you've got a organized contract.
Mhm.
It is legal in the state if you do it through a business district or other things, you can't,
So like
You
the
can't
landlord
mandate-
can't do it.
yeah.
You have to have like a
Town,
district
it's not-
established
yeah.
for the
Or you
businesses
have
in that area.
Something like that.
Town's not
Okay.
gonna have a role.
It would be a little bit, it hasn't been done a lot in this state, but it has been done in other places.
Yeah.
And I just throw that out there as something
Sure.
you might investigate, I think it would be.
For the commercial, that
yeah.
could be,
Mhm.
that
Be
could
really
be
cool to
work.
look into.
Does the town have a chamber? Because I'm
Yep.
because I feel like that would be a potential role for
It's
that.
usually not the chamber, the chamber isn't really that kind of an entity.
Right, well, but that they could be the point of contact for the business.
Or at least maybe get the word out a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, because that's interesting, because once that's established, that's where you can do other things, like my dad's fighting one up in Loveland right now. Well, they didn't want him to be part of downtown for 40 years, but now they suddenly do, because they want him to pay more money. He's like, yeah, so now you're my friends, but now you're not.
so maybe something like explore,
That's a good idea.
options for.
You're thinking of as a-
international contracting in the commercial sector or something like
So
that.
late next year, I'm sorry, late this year.
I don't know, we can explore it anytime, whatever's the quarter has the least stuff in it.
Third quarter, well, fourth quarter's pretty
Yeah.
weak, but fourth quarter tends to get
TBD
dropped
quarter.
off anyway, so. That's really cool.
Mhm.
I like that.
Awesome.
It's already done certain ways in the state.
Hmm. Cool.
A lot of restrictions.
Yeah. I'll do anything, I don't go to Starbucks just well enough, but I'll do anything to make them actually think about how much trash they generate. So if I can get somebody to make them have recycling, that's okay.
Lisa, so I put that under fourth quarter for now. So explore business association coordination.
Thanks.
Sure. All right, so we touched on first quarter. Second quarter, we have PACE. You know, if there's some, again, this is a program that we coordinate with the county to promote. And as Leah and the folks at the county forward some information, we'll be sure to pass that along. I'm sure we'll get an update. Leah couldn't be here tonight. She let me know that she'll try to be here at either the February or March meeting. So she'll probably have some updates on what their program plans are for the year, kind of what their calendar is going to look like for spring and summer. The light bulb education, we've had that in the newsletter a couple of times, and we did a dedicated e-blast once or twice this year. So that'll be a staff item that we'll make sure to put out
There's
again
something
this
a
year.
little flux and worry in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Just a
have so many
bit.
projects that their scopes have suddenly changed, and
Yeah.
we're on hold, like, you know, what's gonna happen next month? You know? Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
True, though.
Well, it's a work plan. It's not necessarily a
there you go.
commitment.
But I mean, our incandescents actually even to be phased out, you know,
Yeah.
that's,
Some big questions
It's
coming
super
up.
not to at this point, but yeah.
no one knows.
Right.
Yeah, then light bulbs.
All up in the air.
And the water audits. So water audits is the traditional, the second quarter item that we do as irrigation
Mhm.
season approaches. So the promotion for that. We added the garden in a box as a promotional item. Continuing the recycling education programs in schools. So we participate in the fall and the spring programs for Wise with Waste and locker room leftovers at the end of the school year. That's been a project we've participated with EcoCycle for several years, and again, that was budgeted for this year. So those would be the times that it comes up, so it's just mentioned in the second and the fourth quarter. Events, household hazardous waste we touched on, the spring shred it and e-cycle, still working with Guardian like I mentioned, and then the Arbor Day event. Look, I still have the wrong date in there. I'll fix that later. All right, so budget recommendations. These were some placeholders that I think the group had talked about and I had inserted a couple of years ago, and so it's not necessarily a catch-all, but this was as I flipped through previous work plans, it seemed like it evolved a little bit as just kind of holding places for items that the group wanted to either hold on to and not forget between kind of December, January, when you come up with a work plan, and then in May and June, when we actually submit the balanced budget for the internal review committee to go over. So we've had these. I added continue because the dog park compost program started a couple of years ago, and it's doing great. You know, it's been fairly steady. You know, it gets 30 to 50 pounds of dog waste a week, which turns into several tons over the course of the year. It's not that it's not used, and one of the items that the members of this group talked about when we first started this was, well, maybe it'll be so overwhelmingly used that will need to be expanded, or people would bring their dog waste from home and maybe overwhelm the bins that are there. Hasn't turned out to happen. It's been fairly consistent with a core group of folks, I think, that are the dog park users.
Do we have more room in our contract for how much they haul? Do you know what I mean? I know at one point we talked about getting another bin, so.
If we ever needed it, we could, but it's
And
never
that's
come
like,
up as a need.
and that's already like included in our cost, right?
Well, we don't budget for contingency. You know, if there was a need, we
Uh-huh.
would try to address it through our existing
So are
budget.
we like using, how do I word this better? Are we using the service that we're paying for at its cap? Do you know what I mean?
Well, they don't want the bins to be completely full because it's hard to move them.
Mhm.
So you want to have kind of a 3/4 full, 2/3 full bin.
And we're
on a
at
weekly
that
basis.
pretty-
And we're kind of in that half the bin.
Okay.
I try not. I don't go
No,
inspect
it's
too
okay.
often. But in my mind's eye, about 50 pounds is about half the bin.
Yeah, okay, no, I was
So-
just curious, because it's like if there was room, I mean, I've talked about it before, but, you know, like as a resident, I wouldn't mind buying like some bags from the town with the right to put them in there, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I'm using them on my walks or at home.
Could be our new handout item at the Chili Fest.
That's actually, you know, we sort of joke about it, but
Would
somebody
actually
said
be kind
before
of
you
cool for
came.
dog owners at least,
you
as
were
long as we
talking
do
about-
something else.
Well, you were talking about how the newsletter, they're gonna be hitting the dog waste pickup issue. That's actually, we laugh, but actually it's not a bad idea.
I would totally use some if it were me, but.
Sure, it's been a consistent, I don't want to say complaint, but it's been a consistent concern that shared with staff and elected officials, and it just comes up at other committees when they talk about parks.
Well,
You know,
that's a giveaway item though,
It
like
is,
the
like,
things
we're
that
laughing,
attach,
but
because
I'm
I
not
have one that
really.
goes on my dog's leash that, like,
Oh,
so
that's
it's
true, the
always
actual
with
dispensers,
me.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
thing
same
is,
thing.
with the dog do,
Mhm.
we do have to use their bags.
Yes.
So that would be the thing. But, you know, it's like we could put together like a bag, you know, a group of like some bags with a cute ribbon
Sure.
on it.
That might
Like
be a
little
good giveaway
do-good
item.
bag would be
Mhm.
kind of,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
It's actually not a bad
Yeah.
idea.
Just for a possibility.
So when some folks are at the events, if you can be at Arbor Day or July 4th or at Chili Fest,
Mhm.
maybe have a wicket of the bags and maybe hand those out.
Keep It Clean, had the thing that you hook onto the leash, that
Mhm.
is the
Mhm.
bag dispenser, but it wasn't compostable bags. But they did have those, and I'm sure if you order them bulk enough, they aren't too expensive.
Should we get a full bag we want?
Mm-hmm.
You were going through events and one that, I don't know if it belongs there, if it belongs down in third quarter or whatever, but I think in conjunction with the, yard waste rollout, the issue of a special promotion for it. I think we should make sure that's in the work plan.
Sure. You had mentioned that before, Lisa. Spring reminder.
I don't know if it belongs to
Spring
there, or I
reminder.
start seeing yard waste down in, a bigger thing about yard waste down in third quarter, I don't know.
Mhm.
Wherever the yard waste thing is getting expanded, that's where it should go.
I think last year when the group worked on this, if my memory serves, the point was to just mention the yard waste site when it was open, but now that it's year-round, it's an every quarter item.
So whenever we think that expansion is gonna be happening.
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
one
You
of
said
those
it's gonna
things
be
that-
by May, is that what you said?
April.
February to April.
Cool.
I guess it belongs in the second quarter.
So that's, yeah,
Mhm.
so I think that's why I mentioned spring reminder, and then Jim and I had mentioned last month, making sure that we coordinate and highlight the spring irrigation and landscape items that come up in both of our
Just trying to
newsletters.
add a promotional item.
Yes.
A special promotion.
Special promotion of the yard waste.
That's,
Yeah.
There we go.
That'd be good.
So the budget items that we had on here were expanding the compost option. So this is, again, an item that's been, as I flipped through some of the previous work plans, on there for several years. Enhancing the services provided at the yard waste. Well, it looks like it's happening this year, which is great. It's a nice
Yay.
change. I was gonna go ahead and eliminate this one, or it might make sense to leave it and think about additional services. I didn't wanna make a change if there were some other ideas that the committee members had. And then continuing the dog park compost program. The single can replacement, the one-hole cans for the dual cans with trash and recycling, has been an item that's been recommended by the group, but the budget necessary to include that in the capital plan was, I want to say, over $75,000 to make the conversion for all. The group had recommended a 5-year replacement plan a couple of years ago, and it just hasn't worked out in the budget. But it's still on here. We can leave it for now, come back to it as we talk about budget. Anybody has any brainstorms or wants to make a change?
For the compost options, maybe you could make it be something like monitor and enhance, or monitor and something, so that it stays on the calendar, but it doesn't, they don't think we're just out to, keep going crazy.
The Taj Mahal of yard waste sites.
How many trash cans are there that are at town facilities?
It's over 100. I want to say it was like
Okay.
112 when I did this a couple of years ago with the group. So I worked through some of the budget numbers, the total number of cans, the cost per can, and then the cost for the additional service on a weekly or sometimes multiple days per week basis. And it was a substantial expense. It was a substantial investment by the town. It wasn't that it wasn't a good expense, but it was just something that didn't make it in the cut in the budget.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to go over that again with the group as we get a little closer to budget time.
Is there an opportunity to make sure that in the downtown, we just install dual can trash cans from the start rather than having to replace them later at large
Yeah, all
expense?
new town facilities have, it's really 3. We do the compost as well. So new parks at El Dorado and Torrey's Peak and at Founders Park, and new park facilities where there's potentially going to be food, where people, places that have a pavilion or have a barbecue or have something where people are going to have food, we're always going to have compost cans.
And on the street as well. If there are trash cans on the street, they're recycling cans.
Cool.
And have we investigated, like, if there's grants available to maybe
To get
do
some
a
of those
replacement?
Sun bellies or something, yeah.
Yeah.
The town, the
first couple of years, right?
yeah, so the grants that Tori was describing that we participated with Boulder County for the last couple of years, the first 2 years we did those, it was for replacement of aging one-hole, just waste, landfill-only trash cans at town facilities, replacing those with the 2-holes.
Okay.
That included the recycling. Might come back to that maybe next year,
Okay.
just as we continue to try to make the park furniture replacement program work to include recycling in addition to just landfill only. But yeah, it's going to be an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
And we were hoping, I think the committee's recommendation was, first year, just do it all at once to get it done, and then the subsequent, or the fallback the following year was space it out over 5 years, and it just hasn't worked out budget-wise. So maybe coming back to trying to at least budget the match to do the county grants again would make sense. Maybe include that in this year's budget. So that it would be an item to leave here. And then the curbside organics pickup special event in the fall. This is an item that's near and dear to Lisa's heart because we've talked about this for a long time, trying to do something special where we would do a curbside organics pickup.
That would be nice.
Would be nice. And then staffing resources. This is an item that we've had for the last couple of years as well, to identify some outside staff time or consider finding some ways to have some additional staff resources available to help carry out some of the programs. So it's been great to have Sharon help us over the last year or so, and then having Tori's work plan be adjusted to help provide some support and leadership for these programs has been great.
So that curbside organics pickup special event in fall, is that meant to be a leaf thing, or is that a funny way of phrasing the quote cleanup?
No, it would have to be organics. It would be leaf. It would leaf,
Exactly.
yard debris.
The quote
Yard debris.
cleanup is gone, we don't do that anymore?
Bulk item has been gone for 3 years. This will be 3 years this
We
spring, I
keep on
think.
pushing for it to come back, Lisa. They were just really negative against it.
I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan, I think, but,
Mhm.
but, oh, only because it ends up being this junk pile and stuff doesn't get recycled, or we don't do it through, you know, the way we were able to do it for 2 years, when Goodwill was willing.
Oh, right.
You know, we
yeah.
cycled it, we said, okay, first pass through, you know, is the reuse guys, they clean it up first, and then we get the compost guys, and then finally the junk guys come. You know,
That's
and
right.
That kind of cycling I'm fine with, because, you know, throw all your crap out in a big pile that just all goes to landfills, and I'm just not so much in favor of that.
No, that's actually, I think that's a very valid point,
But
so.
we can't get the first group to come anymore, they don't seem to do it, and even though they call up and say, we're gonna be your neighborhood, they won't like organizedly do it, you know, it's. I don't
Yeah, it
know
was
what's wrong.
disappointing. It was
We've tried
disappointing.
like 3 different organizations and they just don't do it.
The lack of follow-through was tough, because, you know, the town is scheduling something and then promoting it to the citizens here, and then to not be able to make sure that there's any follow-through, puts us all in a tough position. So it just wasn't something that made sense.
We tried Goodwill, Sister Carmen, and with some other group, and yeah.
Flatirons, Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah, they did a couple years and said, oh, we don't do that anymore.
So it's one of those, this has been the bulk item event has been kind of a back and forth item, you know, for this group, trying to promote it with the board. The board hasn't wanted to take on what turns into about a $50,000 expense.
Junk pile. Yeah.
I never thought about it that way. I appreciate you bringing it up from that point of view.
I'm having a little
Oh,
trouble.
sorry.
You don't have to go there. You
I'm
just
sorry,
go
I'll
a
go
little
for
louder.
record.
I should for record, I need to be better. So the e-cycle, do they do the same kind of bulk items that you guys are talking about, just
A
trying to
lot
do?
of them, but this is, you know, things that are, you know, household items.
Yeah.
Metal, plastic, primary colored plastic from people's backyards.
Right. So not necessarily all the kinds of things that you'd be able to take to.
No. You know, and
Not
a
everything
lot of
was
the.
really recyclable, quote unquote.
And it was
but-
all
Right.
thrown together and put. in
Well, then
plastic
it's not even
bags.
worth it
It's a
at
junk
that point.
pile, is what it is
Right.
in that way.
It's turned into a lot of
I have a
landscape
junk pile I
waste
need to
over
get
the
rid
last
of,
couple of
Lisa.
years, and then
Huh.
it turned into business waste.
But it used
Huh.
to
And that's why it got
be
so
something
expensive.
to the rummage
Yeah.
store, then do that, then whatever, and it just is.
It was-
I was just curious what.
You're right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, if I, Jim Payne, if I could comment on that, we, you know, from the HOA, we were very supportive of continuing that when the board eliminated it from the budget. And that really didn't come from this committee, the board just did it. But at this point, you know, you publish, and we publish all of those other options.
The alternatives list that we have.
And people
from
seem
this
to
group.
have responded to that. You can see on the CAC and other media where people exchange that information. Oh, you can go to these people. So at this
has
point, I'd
actually
let
been-
it, I just
I don't
let
wanna-
it go at this
I'm
point.
happy to
would be
let phase it
my-
out, I
yeah.
just wanted to make sure that that's not what that was code for.
No.
Nope.
That's all I was trying to.
No, specific to yard waste, but Jim, you mentioned a good point, you know, sometimes we don't always communicate on things like this because it's been something that's been cycling through. The amount of calls over the last couple of years that I've received has ratcheted down significantly, just because people are familiar with some of the alternatives available for bulk items. So if there aren't any other changes here, so we have enhance and monitor for compost, continue the dog park compost program, include the single can replacement program, and then have the curbside special event, and then sapping resources. So if there are any other bullet point items that would make sense to at least have as placeholders, this, again, is not a commitment to having a final budget recommendation, which has included bulk item and some other things over the last couple of years, but at least some bullet points to make sure that are on this committee's radar to present to the board as potential adds for the budget recommendation.
I certainly don't want to add anything, but kind of going back to the top that we were just discussing, maybe, obviously, instead of doing that, maybe we just put in a key to promote recycling of your spring cleanup stuff after the community sale. Like, that'll be, so since obviously doing the cleanup is not good, but maybe we should just still encourage that, like just put a placeholder in and remind us to really push out the word about, hey, you're doing your spring cleanup of your garage. This is where you can take your
sure.
stuff.
Mhm.
Hey, we had the
Yeah.
townwide garage sale.
Mhm.
Publish it
This is where you
everywhere,
take the
Goodwill and
stuff.
all that,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah, just do everything we can, at least on that end.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
that we are doing it, but just kind of as a placeholder to remind the town. That's a good time to really push out the news about that.
I'm gonna just put spring cleanup reminder options, and
Yeah,
I'll come back with some.
Where to take what,
verbiage.
who to contact. I mean, they make it easy, but
So that leaves third and fourth quarter. Not too many changes that were contemplated by the group over the last couple of months. So researching commercial recycling opportunities, the outdoor residential water audits, so third quarter wrap those up, the irrigation audits that are coordinated through CRC. And then yard waste site, it's again here, even though it's really, I guess, kind of an ongoing to the group. Yeah, so our yard waste site was moved up here as an ongoing, so maybe that's why it was deleted down here. So I'm gonna go ahead and call that an ongoing item. And then possibility of fall leaf program, it goes back to the one-time event. Recycling plans through PACE, we talked about that. And that was an item that the board talked about with this group last year when you had your joint meeting, about kind of what that would look like. The PACE staff member who was great about doing the outreach had a chance to meet with a couple of businesses and kind of go through what it would look like, which was great. So third quarter. And then fourth quarter. Explore Business Association coordination of the waste collection for downtown Superior. Continuing the recycling education, so do the fall program with EcoCycle in the schools. Initiate Arbor Day invitations for Sustainability Corner. This was an item that has been a holdover, and there's been a couple of past members of this committee that wanted to take on the responsibility of reaching out to somebody with the Botanic Society and trying to find some folks who would come to our Arbor Day. So that's why it's been continued to stay on here as a fourth quarter item. If there's anybody who had somebody that they either maybe knew that was in the industry that would be available to come to Arbor Day, that's been an opportunity for the committee to reach out and find somebody and drag them to our Arbor Day event. So that's why that's been on there, I think, as a fourth quarter item.
And I would say, finish up the uncompleted events in the other quarters.
Look for wrap-up opportunities. And then the fall shred it and e-cycle event, so I touched on trying to work with Guardian.
And we just don't mention things like holiday tree stuff and all that.
Well, we haven't mentioned things that have become ongoing programs. So this has always been kind of a mix. So the program items that that have become part of our ongoing, we don't necessarily highlight. Yard waste is special, I think, in some ways because it is going through some expansion, and it's just something that's been good, I think, in the opinion of the committee to just keep in front of the board. So if the group is good with this, I'll send this out again to everybody, and if you have any changes, feel free to reply. Otherwise, I'll maybe think of a better word for cleanup reminder options.
In fourth quarter, could we like do something with the tree lighting in conjunction with that, like participate in that event somehow to bring up awareness?
Be cool.
Geez, that's not a bad idea.
Like, I mean, even recycling the cups from the hot cocoa or
Well,
things like
it's
that.
really stuff like
LED
that
lighting
and like
or-
alternative wrapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LED Christmas lights.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, it's probably more than that.
Now, funny enough, we were hoping to plan that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a word for it, holiday, right?
The fourth quarter starts October, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We
Just
haven't
really
done
just
the- We haven't
Trouble
the
lights.
Christmas, or the holiday shopping tips on here for a while, but that's more a newsletter item than it is.
Yeah, we've had it the last couple of we put them in the November and December newsletter. EcoCycle puts out a holiday shopping guide. We've had a link to that, which has been good.
We had top 10 for a while.
Yeah, there was different members of the committee in the past that worked on holiday suggestions for green consumerism more than anything, and different wrapping options that have been put together by committee members in the
We did it
past.
as more articles of the newsletter rather than a special
Mhm.
promotion. One year we tried to get together with Target, make sure there was a table with the things on, whatever, but it didn't work very well, so they planned their thing.
Mhm. And EcoCycle's promotional program, I don't know if it's just a change in staff there, and then in the way that their work plan has worked out, but I saw I've been getting a lot more stuff that they're pushing out that's contemporary or current with whatever the seasons are and the holidays. It was great to see. So it wasn't just us. I didn't have to go find it on their website. I think I got it a couple of times in my email. And so it was an easy kind of pass through our newsletter. So Caitlin, I added just participate in the holiday light, count the lights event.
Yeah.
And maybe identify some ways to do that before next year's.
Jim, did you have
something?
something?
Not on this.
Oh, okay. Anything else on the work plan? Okay, so I'll send that out.
Cool, thanks.
So, Jim Payne, just following up on Lisa's suggestion, I was looking at how that would work. It was a good idea. And it's very quick, because there are only 4 exceptions to the Monday collection in 2017. So there are other holidays, but it's only, what matters are only the ones that fall on a Monday. So there are only 4 collection days that move from Monday to Tuesday. But the confusion is when they don't move. So this Monday is a good example, because this Monday is a holiday for many people. So what I'm going to do, what the HOA is going to do, and I'm going to suggest, Martin, that you do the same, is send out an e-blast that says trash and recycling collection will occur on the normal day, Monday, January 16th, and then give the schedule for the full year, which is very short because there are only those 4 days. So they'll have that as a
That'd be
reference,
great.
and we'll continue to post that through the year on our website. So does that make sense? If
Sounds
so, I'll
great.
send it to you.
That'd be great,
That'd be
thanks for
awesome.
doing that. So Jim and
Thank
I
you,
will
Jim.
we'll follow up on that.
But the only,
I'm not sure I have to look at what happens to the composting schedule, which is on Thursday, but it wouldn't be affected this week, so.
Yeah, for any
That's a
Thursday
future.
holidays that happen during the irrigation season, yeah. Troop 278, see, here it is, right here in the newsletter. I was close. I was just going through the stuff that I had on screen here, making sure I didn't miss anything. The only other item on the agenda tonight was the leadership election, so, as I mentioned at the beginning. We did, that was the
We
first time
never
we
had
had
quorum all
quorum.
of last year.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do it for years.
I asked that question too. I was like, didn't we just do that?
And we don't have enough people again tonight, right?
And-
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
mean, it's okay, Essie's just gonna be.
And really, it's a reminder for this meeting, because the ordinance is written that it has to be the second meeting of the calendar year.
Got it.
Okay.
Or as soon as we have a quorum.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the next time we have a quorum, that's the fallback position.
I mean, December and January, it was so hard.
Suspense builds for February.
December through August?
Yeah, fair enough.
So I didn't have anything else for the group, it's 7, so.
Thanks, Martin.
Anything else?
Did you do what we were supposed to?
I hope so. Was there any, you had everything on my list you did. Was there anything on your list that I didn't get to, or Ezzy missed? No?
Nope.
Anything else, Ezzy?
Sweet.
Cool, thanks.
All right, thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.
So next month, I should be able to come at the very beginning, but
Okay.
we'll have to leave early.
Sounds good. That works.
Not a lot of
Hopefully,
time.
Hopefully that works. Yeah, we'll see. Yep, fingers crossed.
Vote on everything we need to vote on.
Good thing is we
I
don't
am.
have to see that.
Yeah, if you have a chance, that'd be great.
We've met or not? I don't think so.
Monday's the kind of day that confuses me.
I had the new dad from my
I don't know.
and I took you out. One bug was the location management, which says geographic area, and then, but then she sometimes, so, then, you know, it's like, wait, how we always have. But I logged into Allison's